I'm not going to sit here and fool you and pull the wool over your eyes and tell you that there isn't politics in football. There isn't politics in choosing someone in the secondary. There's politics in all sports. Why? You are watching and listening to the Indy Drills podcast with your host, Chad Wilson, author of 101 DB Tips, owner of All Eyes DB Camp. And what do we do on this show? We talk about pass coverage, defensive back topics, getting the offensive passing game slowed down. If this is your first time checking us out, or you have before and haven't had a chance to do it yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're watching me on YouTube, or subscribe to the show on whatever listening device you are using to stream your podcast. Go ahead and do that right now. Quick, fast, and a hurry. So our NFL season has started, college football season into week 2. So what are some of the things that we have seen out here? I tell you what, look, just from a fan standpoint, from that part of it, you just want to be entertained. SMU and Baylor on Saturday was a very entertaining game. But here's what I noticed. And I'm very shocked by this because, Dave Aranda, the head coach for Baylor, used to be, defensive coordinator, most notably for LSU, but it was in some other places. That is a guy that I have a lot of respect for, and still do, obviously. And none of that's changed. So don't listen to my tone and think any of that has changed. Very good defensive mind, but he's moved to Baylor, and I haven't really dug into it as to whether or not he's involved totally in the defense, if he's that kind of coach, or is he more of the manager type. Whatever the case may be, Baylor did not look good on defense. Neither did SMU, for that matter. Full-on track meet. If you're a fantasy football guy, or you guy that just likes to see a lot of touchdowns and teams running up and down the field you were pure entertainment. All right. And if you missed that game, go check it out on YouTube. You can catch a condensed version, or maybe even a full version of that. What I am seeing, though, are teams are doing a whole lot on defense, and the players aren't necessarily prepped for it. By that, I mean, I don't think they're doing enough drill work. And you're asking them, the more coverages you run, the more technique these guys are going to need. And you could see how that could run into, being a problem. These are college athletes for the moment, even though we don't treat them like that anymore. These are salaried athletes. They still have classes that they need to go to. They still need to, quote unquote, be eligible. So a good portion of their day is taken away from the football stuff by having to go to class and study hall and things of that nature. There's an infinite amount of time there. And so there's only so much you can run. So if you keep adding to the scheme, you keep complicating the scheme, there are different techniques that these guys are going to need. And just off of what I have seen in attending practices for college football teams and in talking to the guys that I train, individual periods are getting shorter and shorter. And a lot of the individual periods are being used to teach the scheme, but you're teaching the scheme without teaching these guys technique. So I'm seeing a lot of breakdowns in these games like this having to do with technique on top of tackling. Like, tackling is just not even happening anymore. I know a portion of that is that a lot of these offenses are hurry-up offenses, so guys are fatigued. That should now mean that there needs to be an emphasis on your conditioning. And that doesn't always have to mean running wind sprints at the end of practice, or gassers, or something coordinated like that. Run the guys within the framework of what you're doing, your game prep. So pursuit drills, and run them to, I don't want to say exhaustion, but yes, exhaustion. So through the exhaustion, these guys are going to develop better conditioning in game-like atmosphere. And the reason you would do it like that is because it's the guys will, no one really likes and loves conditioning. Only a handful of guys do. But you are doing it within, like I said, the framework of a game. You want to make it kind of competitive, because if you go do just gassers or wind sprints, guys can dog that. They're definitely not going to get fired up about that. There's very little motivation in that for them. Really, what are they chasing? They're chasing the time on the clock. guys can easily fudge that. But if you do a pursuit drill and you make the guys accountable to each other in their units, so if you've got a first unit, a second unit, and you run that first unit out there and you demand that all these guys get to a spot, in a certain amount of time, or they got to be doing it full speed, well, then those guys are accountable to each other. The way I would run my pursuit drill was, you're out there for 3 downs. I'm going to send the ball to a certain location. Everyone must sprint there. And if I thought someone was dogging it, I would just reset it by saying, hey, they earned the first down on that, which is typically what's going to happen in the game. If your defenders aren't running to the ball, offense is going to have some success. They're going to make the line a gain, and then, the series is going to continue. So that's within the framework of what's really actually going to happen in a game. So there are only so many times that a guy is going to be able to dog it and make everyone else have to stay out there on the field before teammates start getting on that guy's case. And in most cases, especially you guys in high school, the opinion of teammates, other teenagers, is paramount to kids. They care more about what the teammates think than what the coach thinks. They only really care about what the coach thinks because that's the guy that's controlling the playing time. But to have another player on your team think you suck and say it, and, have others say it, is the world to them. So you want to build your conditioning in that type of framework, so you're going to get what you need to get out of it. On top of that, first unit is competing against the second unit, because some of those guys in that second unit are damn close to being in that first unit. So, anyone that's feeling the heat in that first unit because there's a guy right behind them pushing them, they're going to run the way they need to run to that ball. They're going to get there. And so you want to create competition within that framework of the game. That's the kind of stuff that you want to have going on in your practice, because a big part of what I'm seeing there is just guys just are not in shape. And, once there's a saying, and I want to say Jimmy Johnson, old coach for the University of Miami and then Dallas Cowboys, came up with this. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. He probably heard it from an old ball coach somewhere, but Jimmy is the one who won the national championships and the Super Bowl, so he gets credit for saying it. But the guys get fatigued, they forget their technique, they forget where they're supposed to be, and then they don't have enough energy to make proper tackles. So we need an emphasis out there on conditioning, right? Both to you players out there and to you coaches. If you don't have time for that in practice, you're tripping big time. Cut something out of practice. Those guys need to be in shape. And another reason why you build it into the framework of what's going to happen into a game, you can kind of get a 2-for-1, right? We have a conditioning period. And that conditioning period, instead of saving it for the end of practice, you do it, like I said, with a pursuit drill. So we're learning how to pursue, and then we're also conditioning at the same time. I digress on that. Can I just tell you all about something that's bothering me? As a guy who spent a significant amount of his time on the West Coast, actually graduated from high school on the West Coast. I was a UCLA fan as a kid growing up. Something about the blue and the gold. I was also a Ram fan. I guess those were my colors I liked for football teams. But, a closet UCLA, I don't even want to say a closet UCLA fan. It was out there. I like UCLA football, liked it. All right. Different, I'm an adult now. I've been through some things. I played college football for another team. That's my team now. But since you were a fan of a team, even when you're no longer a fan, you pay attention. And just all my life, man, UCLA defense has been soft. Now, they've started off 0-2. Deshaun Foster is doing the best that he can. They just got beat by UNLV, which would be a cardinal sin back in the day. But in this NIL era and this hurry up offense era where kids move around, it's not so crazy that a team like UNLV might beat a team like UCLA. But back in my day, that would be absolutely crazy for something like that to happen. But nevertheless, they lose to UNLV. They give up 30 points in the process. Week 1, UCLA looked totally helpless against Utah. Just what is it about UCLA's defense? If I were to go coach college football outside of my school, the University of Miami, UCLA is probably a place where I would love to go. I'd love to go to UCLA and make some hardcore defensive backs. Guys that no nonsense, get their hands on the ball. And if they don't get their hands on the ball, they're putting you on your back within the loose framework of, all the rules we have now about hitting a guy, but just some physicality. And if I ever got control of that full defense, we're going to get after people.
If you're a brand new coach and you've been thrusted into a job and you're kind of overwhelmed, I've got a great resource for you. The All Eyes DB Camp members area will get you up to speed so you can get your guys in the right position to make plays and make you look like an all-star coach. I've got everything in there from quizzes, coverages explained, technique breakdowns, strategy sessions, everything you need to ramp up your coaching ability and turn your guys into playmakers. Hit the link down below. Come join us in the All Eyes DB Camp members area. Greatness awaits you.
I just want that for UCLA football before I die. Start putting units out there that can stand up and stop teams, get stops, and not just let people go up and down the field. There have been some great years for UCLA football, but usually it's behind the offense. Cade McNown and the receivers that they've had and the running backs like Deshaun Foster, who is the head coach of the team now. He was a great running back in the day. Rarely is it around defensive players. There have been a few, but not really. And just you can hardly sit here and say, oh, that 19 so-and-so or that 2000 and something UCLA defensive unit was like that. Never has happened. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, man. Watching them lose 30-23 to UNLV. I mean, I understand if you lost 17-14, but 30 points to UNLV, like, come on, man. What's going on? All right, nevertheless, NFL games yesterday. How about Jalen Ramsey, right? New team, new address, new place. And, he ends the game with his patented form tackle. Now, that guy knows how to wrap a guy up, shoot his hips, and get him straight on his back. I don't know if you haven't had a chance to see it. Justin Fields and the New York Jets, who played well, by the way. I'm thinking the Jets are going to have a pretty good year, believe it or not. I know I'm in a minority on that. I know Jet fans are, very cynical. They've been through a lot of pain in their lives, but I think the Jets are going to do well. And evidence of that was how they played yesterday. Found themselves in a 2-minute drill towards the end of the game. Justin Fields scrambling right before he crosses the line of scrimmage, chucks one out there in the flat to Garrett Wilson, and he gets absolutely lit up by Jalen Ramsey, who knocks the ball out of his hands for an incompletion. Game over. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's actually, I posted it on my Instagram page at All Eyes DB Camp. A real finisher. But if you're any kind of ball fan, you have already seen this. So Jalen Ramsey and the Pittsburgh Steelers come up with a great play at the end. I'm a little shocked that Jets got 32 points off on the Steelers. They're going to need to tighten up on that because Aaron Rodgers isn't throwing 4 touchdowns every week. Kudos to him for getting after that team that he used to play for, and he had some things to say about it. You guys can, look that stuff up. Ravens and Bills last night. What a thriller. Absolute thriller. These are two teams that are supposed to have good defenses, all right? And the Ravens have a great run. And both of these teams have a great running game. James Cook, a top-of-the-line running back in this league, and we all know what Derrick Henry is, who had 175-plus yards, I think, last night, but ended up being a GOAT fumbling. But we're here to talk defense, like what was going on with their defenses there. I can't wait to uncork the all 22 of that game and just kind of watch what was going on. I want to see what Jair Alexander looked like in this Ravens defense and just try and figure out why we had just so many points scored last night. 80-plus points scored in a game with two teams that are, going to be playoff bound. That was not playoff defense that we witnessed last night. Final thing is Browns, Bengals. Look, the Bengals offense, we all know what that is, just looked unstoppable last year, in particular towards the end of the year, just completely unstoppable. It's Chase, it's Higgins, it's Gesicki, it's Burrow, it's Brown, just going up and down the field. But if there's one team that they don't get off on like that, yes, they happen to beat them usually, typically, consistently, but to just have that offense go off like they do against everyone else, the Cleveland Browns secondary typically holds the Bengals in check by the standards of how they do everyone else. So there's something to be talked about there. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, And the rest of those guys usually do a very good job against the Bengals. So I can't wait to cut that on and watch Ward versus Chase and just how the entire battle between that offense and the Cleveland Browns secondary went. One big factor in all of that was Myles Garrett. He had a series there where he just completely was unblockable. And then there's also video out there of him twisting through the A-gap and knocking the holy hell out of Joe Burrow. So having a defensive end like that can definitely help your cause in the secondary. Matter of fact, I asked this question on my Instagram account, and I would love for you guys to drop your comment here down below with your answer on this. If you're a top-of-the-line cornerback, you either are, or let's just pretend that you are. Even coaches and parents, anyone watching this can chime in on this. But let's say you're a top-of-the-line cornerback. Which of the following four things would you want to have on your team? Would you most want to have on your team with you? Is it A, another top-of-the-line cornerback? Is it B, a Myles Garrett type defensive end, an All-American defensive end? Or is it C, a top-of-the-line safety like an Ed Reed type, Brian Dawkins, any one of those, Hall of Fame type guys? Would you want that? Or is it D, a Hall of Fame type defensive coordinator? Those are your choices there. You guys drop an answer in the comments down below for me on that. What do you think of that? Would you rather have another lights out corner? Would you rather have an All-American defensive end? Would you prefer to have the All-American safety, or would you want a Hall of Fame type defensive coordinator? Which would you most want if you were a lights out corner? And that's it for our current topics. Let's just jump into our current event topic. Sorry. Let's just jump into our subtopic here. And that is, we're in this time of year. Guys just came out of camp for the most part. All right. You're maybe at the most 3 or 4 weeks into your high school football season. And, as I said, we're in week 2 of college football. That just completed. And week 1 of the NFL has just gone by. You had your idea of how things were going to go going through camp. A lot of y'all were in position battles and you thought something was going to happen. And you may even feel like you have beat the guy out that you were competing for the job for, and somehow, some way, you're not starting, that guy's starting, or he's getting the majority of the snaps, or things just aren't going the way they should for you on the field. I'm going to discuss with you guys now how you handle politics. All right. Sometimes it's not politics. Sometimes you are a little delusional about how that battle went. All right. I'm not really talking about that situation, but that is also true. You think you outplayed a guy and you didn't really outplay that guy. Sometimes we can be a little delusional, but then there are other times where you clearly outplayed a guy. You clearly beat him out in this thing that they call the competition, yet you're not starting. I'm not going to sit here and fool you and pull the wool over your eyes and tell you that there isn't politics in football. There isn't politics in choosing someone in the secondary. There's politics in all sports. Why? Because it has such a great meaning. It means so much to a lot of people. And when you have something that means a lot to a lot of people, oh, and by the way, there's some money involved somewhere, which at this point, we could say that is the case for high school, college, and obviously NFL football. There's going to be a certain amount of politics. It just exists. That's the way that it is. How do we handle that? In essence, the overall thing I'm going to say to you is you can only control what you can control. So what does that mean? That means you're going to control your effort while you're out there. Is it going to be the amount of reps that you want? Is it going to be with the unit that you want? Is it going to be how you want it? No, but you're going to get those reps. And when you get those reps, you're going to have to do the most with them. One of the best things that I heard was Tom Brady on a stage at some speaking engagement that he was at, and he was asked a question about his time at Michigan, which for those of you that don't know, he was a backup for a good amount of his time there. Certainly not starting the way guys start now in this league as they, move through to the NFL. Guys get thrown out there as freshmen, as we're, watching with Arch Manning and maybe a whole bunch of others. But Tom Brady spent a good amount of time as a backup. And he was talking about just what he was going through there, not getting very many reps. He'd get the last 2 reps of each period, whether that was 7-on-7 or the team period. And, he's thinking, man, how much can I do with that? How am I going to get an opportunity to start when I'm just not even getting reps in practice? And he went to the head coach, Lloyd Carr, at the time, and was in there complaining. And Lloyd Carr just basically, I don't want to say dismissive, but essentially was saying, Tom, this is what it is. This is where you are on the depth chart, and you're going to have to make the most of it. And for whatever reason, Tom Brady decided to take that to heart. And he said, if I'm going to have the last two reps in practice, then I'm just going to make those the best reps possible. And with whatever they are, that might be 2 run plays. Obviously, if you're a quarterback trying to make your mark, you want a couple of pass plays in there so that you can show your ability to read a defense, make a decision, and make a great throw. And that's how you get measured as a quarterback, or at least that's how most people think. But what he resigned himself to do is no matter what the call was, he was going to do the best at it. And each aspect of that play, he was going to do to the best of his ability, even down to he's going to take the snap the best way that he can. He's going to make the best handoff or the best play fake. He's going to run the play the best way possible. He's going to call the play in the huddle the best way possible. These are the things that he can control. All right. He's being told to call a play and run it. So this is what I've been asked to do. I'm going to do it to the utmost of my ability. Call the play the best way possible to have all the guys in the huddle motivated. I'm going to take that. I'm going to make my pre-snap calls and reads to the best of my ability. I'm going to take that snap, which means never putting that ball on the ground, putting an emphasis on that, do that to the best of my ability. And if it means handing the ball off, give the best handoff possible, carry out my fake if there's one after that to the best of his ability. And of course, anything where he was asked to throw, read, whatever, the stuff that, quarterbacks salivate over, he does that to the best of his ability. Over time, you get so good and in tune on doing those things that if and when you ever become the starter, you're so nailed down on these very basic things that a lot of guys take for granted. Stuff happens. If you just keep going, stuff happens. So if you want to take a page out of Tom Brady's book, you're not with the starters right now. You may even be on the scout team. And in your mind, that's a slap in the face. Forget about that. It is what it is. For those of you who hate that saying, I'm bringing it to you now. The situation is what it is, but you're going to go on that scout team and you're going to line up in the best stance possible. If you're pedaling, pedal out the best way possible, make the best break, go run to the ball. If it's a run play away from you, do that to the best of your ability. You keep doing these little small things over and over and over. You're going to get really, really good at that. 1. 2, someone's going to notice, not at the time that you want them to notice, not when you think they should notice, but they're going to eventually notice. There's going to be a certain amount of consistency where that coach cuts the film on every day. Several coaches watch it every day, and every day they see you sprinting to that football. Every day they see you being where you need to be. I'm telling you, that's going to have an effect. Sometimes they're just not going to recognize your value and talent right away. It's going to take a while. Just consistently keep doing these things over and over and over. But every single thing that you have control over, you need to maximize. That's your stance. That's your approach. That's your approach in meetings. Max out on the meetings. Take your notes. Let that be known. Let that be seen. If you're asked a question about something, you have the answer. You watch the film in the meetings to the best of your ability. You take notes. You do all of these things. And funny stuff happens during the course of a season, just so you guys know. Guys get hurt. Guys don't play well. Something happens off the field. All kinds of things happen. All of these seasons are long. High school football seasons are mad long now. Used to be just 10 games. Now, and then it was 11. Now it's 12. Now it's 14. A lot of things can happen. When your moment comes, you have to be prepared. The alternative is sulking about it, carrying an attitude about it, having 50 meetings with the coaches, having your parents come in there and have 10 meetings with the coaches, which is probably going to keep your attitude in the wrong place. and you're going to go out there and every other day you're going to have an attitude and you're not going to do these things that I'm telling you that you need to do to get yourself on the field and be prepared for your opportunity. And what the wildest thing that's happened, because I've witnessed this both as a player with some other guys and as a coach. Through circumstance, a guy gets his opportunity, but he's been so focused on the anger and the politics and how he feels like he's been done wrong that he's not prepared when that opportunity comes. And when the opportunity comes, he fails. And listen, most of the time, if you're the backup, it is what it is. Your opportunity is not going to be as long as the guy that was originally named a starter. Your hook's going to be faster. So that means you absolutely have to be on point. That guy that was in there was messing around for 3-4 weeks. You got in there for 1 week and didn't get it done, and you're back out of there. That's how this thing works. That's how it works. So you know what? Let's not mess up in that 1 week that they get you in there. What you do is, since you have been preparing yourself for this moment for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, you've been in your stance the way you need to be in it, in the best of your ability, studying the way you need to study film to the best of your ability, taking the notes in the meeting to the best of your ability, doing all of these things. When that opportunity comes, there's no way you can fail. You're going to do it in a way that other guy never gets back in there. There's just no way they can deny you at this point. There's just no way. You are so prepared for that moment. At that moment, they realize, well, we probably made a mistake, and we're not going to say it. Most of the times they won't say it, but here's how they will say it. You start again next week, and you start again next week, and you start again next week. There's no room in this situation for you to be pouting. I've been in one major position battle in my life when I really think about it. And that was in my second year at the University of Miami. After I got through of all of the adjustments of moving from Long Beach State to the University of Miami, made it through that first year. Was not very happy about how that year went. I, probably should have been redshirted because, I did feel there was some politics. I was a backup to a guy that was in front of me. And when that guy got hurt, they moved the guy from the other side and put him in front of me. Man, I guess that just meant they didn't think I was ready. As the player at that time, you're pissed about it and you feel like they're making a wrong decision. Maybe I was right. Maybe they were wrong, whatever the case may be. Coaches make decisions based on how they feel, and they, I guess, didn't trust me enough. And I might have given them reason. To be honest, I was struggling with the cover two technique that they were trying to teach me at that point. So maybe they didn't feel good enough doing that. Nevertheless, by the end of the year, I'd done well enough to now I came into the spring and there was a position battle now for that position that was opened in front of me because that guy had graduated. So me and the other guy that they brought over in front of me, we're going to battle it out for this position. And I wanted that so bad that was the whole mindset that I took. I'm going to do everything in my power to get that position. So that was study, that was be on time to meetings, that was be in the best shape possible. And we pushed each other. Me and the other guy pushed each other. So, but my whole mindset was on doing everything to the best of my ability. Now, I didn't have all this stuff in my head that I just told you guys about. I just naturally did it. I wanted so bad to do that. That's what ended up happening. Might be why what Tom Brady said in that speaking engagement really spoke to me, because I was like, hey, that's kind of what I did. And that's how I ended up showing everyone that I was the guy that should be in that position. Ultimately, what ended up happening was a little bit of, I felt politics. Coaches said we would alternate starts and we would alternate series. I start this week, he starts next week, I start next week, and back and forth, back and forth. Ultimately, not the best situation, not what I thought should have happened. I should have been a clean-cut starter. That's how I felt. I'm sure the other player felt that way. As fate and luck would have it, I ended up getting hurt, couldn't play the rest of the season. This guy that I was battling with was a senior, and he had no red shirt left. I had a red shirt left. I took my red shirt. He ended up starting every game that season. And I came back the next year, started all of the games the next year. So it worked out for him, worked out for me. When we ended up having a great relationship. All of us had really great relationships in that defensive back room. So it ended up working out. But that was just my little experience with having to battle for a position. So a lot of you guys out there that are listening to this are in that situation, and this is really how you need to approach it in that manner. Whatever you are given, max it out. Do it to the best of your ability, and try to keep those thoughts of the politics out of your head, that you're being screwed out of your head, because it's going to affect your mindset. It's going to affect how you approach things. It's going to affect how you practice everything. And you won't be getting better. You're going to get stuck at, or you're going to be getting worse. And there's just no way now that they can play you. They may get forced to play you because of injury. You won't perform. It's all about what you have in your head at this point. Okay. And I know it's easier and easier nowadays to just pick up and leave, transfer, go to another school. But before you do that, really, really climb through the whole exercise in your head and make sure you're in touch with reality. Because if you aren't on point mentally, you're just going to carry that to the next school. And unless you're taking a major step down in your competition level, chances are you're going to have to battle someone else there. And once you allow the thought of politics to be in your head, the moment you run into any resistance in the next place, that's what's going to enter into your head. And it's going to be doubly worse than how you thought at the last place. You're just going to say, oh, politics again. So you're going to have a bad attitude there. And then you're going to want to transfer again. And now it's 3, 4, or 5 schools, and nothing just ever really happens for you. So before you think about leaving that first time, run through these steps that I was telling you. All right. Time now for our mailbag. I love this part of it. And just a note to you guys, if you want a question answered, here's a couple of ways for you to do it. The best way for you to do it is to comment on this video if you're watching me on YouTube with your question. That's the best way to do it. If you're listening to me on a streaming device like Spotify or Apple Podcast, see if I know Anchor has the ability for you to ask a question there. You can drop your question there. The better thing for you to do is probably send me that question to my email address, cwilson@alliesdbcamp.com. If you're not watching this on YouTube and able to drop your question there, send it to me there, and we'll get to the question there. If I'm not going to answer it on the show, I will answer you via email as soon as possible. If it is something that I feel worthy to bring to the show, I'll answer it here, but I will let you know that I'm answering it here. But on top of that, though, you should be watching the Indy Drills podcast each and every time anyway. So make sure you're tuned in all the time, especially if you happen to ask me a question. All right, couple of questions for today. Antonio in New Jersey says, what type of wide receiver was the hardest for me to cover? All right, I break receivers down into these basic categories. A speed receiver, a guy with a tremendous amount of speed that's just going to frighten you every time he releases outside because you think it's going to be a fade or a go ball, or it goes inside and stems you vertically and the guy's going to a post. He's a speed guy. All right. Track guy. Let's just call it that. It's the track guy. Then there's the big wide receiver that, maybe he's not going to run away from you, but he's just going to out muscle you, out physical you at the point of attack and catch the football anyway when you're there. And then there is the route runner. Of those 3 main categories, there are other little subcategories you can go with, but those are the 3 main categories. Really fast, really big, really great route runner. Really great route runner was the one that probably gave me the most problems. Because, all right, I could run, so I wasn't really worried about a guy running away from me. Was I the fastest guy ever? No. But a speed guy, between my technique and the speed that I possessed, I wasn't worried about those things. And then, I'm a studier anyway, so I'm going to just kind of figure out. Usually those speed guys rely on speed. So you can, if you study at all, you kind of just know what those guys are doing. And a lot of times they, hard for them to get out of their breaks because they couldn't control their speed. A little easy to cover. The big guys I could really get hands on, right? Wasn't a really big corner. Played most of my time at 180, maybe 185 pounds. But I could get my hands on those big guys because they just weren't very nimble. So I could make it a fight. And I just knew how to annoy a guy at the catch point. Every now and then I might run into a guy that was just really difficult. Last Indy Drills podcast, I shared with you guys the worst game that I'd ever had as a player. And it was when I was at Long Beach State going up against Cal State Fullerton. And the guy on that day was a guy like that. big, long arms, kept winning at the catch point. I was on his hip on just about every one of those reps, but he was just making the catch anyway. Made my life hard. But it is the route runners that would be my biggest bugaboo. All right. Look, I'm not here to admit defeat to anybody. I can handle my own against any one of those types. But if you're asking me who gave me the biggest problem, it was the route runners, because I was a studier. And the route runners are studiers too. So it was really a battle of wits. So it's like playing chess. They're studying me. I'm studying them. They're studying me. I'm studying them. And the route runners are usually very good at hiding their true intentions. They're very deceptive. They'll make you think they're going deep when they're going short. They'll make you think they're going short, then they go deep. They make you think they're going out. You bite on the out because I was a guy that like to go, I'm going to go get that football. I'm going to trust what I'm seeing. Then they go in. So I've got to double down on the study. I will say this. Because they gave me the most trouble, I really enjoyed going against them because it made me buckle down and study more. And it was a real chess match, and it became fun to do that. He got me today. I'm going to get him tomorrow. He got me with this. I'm going to get him with this tomorrow. I'm going to throw that question back to you guys watching this. What type of receiver gave you the most trouble? Was it the fast guy, or currently for you guys playing? Is it the fast guy? Is it the big guy? Or is it the route runner? Or do you have another category that you want to throw out there? If you do, hit me in the comments. Let me know what that is. But who gave you the most trouble? One other question. Monty in Ohio says, how do you know when to play press and when to play off? Well, Monty, the quick answer is usually that's built into the coverage. So typically your coach or your defensive coordinator has in mind what he would like his players to do in a particular coverage. So, might be a cover one, and he'll direct you to, hey, I want you guys pressing in this. Or it's, 2-man, you guys are going to be pressed in that. You're not going to be playing that off. Typically, it's built into the coverage. So you need to understand that in the coverages, and you can ask your coach when your guys are installing a coverage or you're going over it, coach, what do you want us doing in this? Do you want us pressing in this? Do you want to play off? And if you have that option, you might want to ask, do I have that option? Coach, can I play this off? All right. On a coverage like cover one, that would probably be the one where you're most likely to have that option. I know most coaches would like for the player to play what he's most comfortable with. There are also going to be situations, though, where he's going to really demand that you play press. So if it's cover one and it's 3rd and 3 and the team's really, good at running slants, he might want you to press that up. So typically get guidance from your coach. Outside of that,
stop. You know you didn't have all the interceptions that you wanted to have this year. So how are we going to fix that problem? I've got 2 great resources for you. First is my book, 101 DB Tips, chock full of information and tips for you to get your hands on that pigskin. Everything from how to train, how to play man coverage, how to play zone coverage, and a whole lot more. Plus, the All Eyes DB Camp members area breaks down coverages for you, technique, quizzes, all kinds of great things in there that's going to up your knowledge, that's going to get your hands more times on the football this year. Check them out. I have a link in the description down below.
It is best for you to do one of 2 things, or both of these. A, go with the one you're most comfortable with. So if you're a guy with really good pedal, and you're really good and you weave, you can read all that stuff well, and you like to kind of just maybe you're a guy that can read the 3-step and you want to be able to face that quarterback up and get a jump on it, and you're good with it and your coach allows you to do it, that's what you want to go with. That's what you're most comfortable with. That is your weapon. You go use that. Or the other thing is it's really just boils down to a situation type of thing. Maybe you're in a game and you're a smaller corner and you've got a big wide receiver and you just don't want your back turned play after play, or in certain situations, you don't want your back turned to that guy because as a bigger wide receiver, probably going to have a better opportunity to catch certain footballs as they're approaching to him if your back is turned and he could see it. In that case, you play off. Or maybe that big guy is very difficult for you to press. You don't feel like you're getting much done at the line of scrimmage with him, or there is the chance that he could, really get rid of you, throw you off balance at that line and leave you with big separation. It just stands to reason that you'd prefer to play off. So there's 2 things here. Either it's built into the coverage and you must do one or the other, or it's a situational type thing, right? You go with what you're more comfortable with in a situation where you have an option, or, the type of receiver you're going against warrants you to either press over being off, or you should be off rather than pressing. And that's typically how you go about deciding whether or not you should be playing off or you should be playing press. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Monty. If not, or if any of you other guys have a question, you're, again, watching this on YouTube, drop your question down below, or you can send me an email to cwilson@alleyeasdbcamp.com. All right, moving along to our final segment today. I'm watching that game last night between the Ravens and the Bills, and look, it's primetime television. It's the first week of the NFL season. It's Sunday night football. It's a matchup of two teams that were in a great battle in the playoffs last year, and it's all eyes. All eyes are on everything that's happening there. And in a big pressure moment in the game, the Bills had moved late in the game and gotten a touchdown, and with a 2-point conversion, they could have tied the game at 40. This was after the Ravens had several double-digit leads in the game. Josh Allen, who played really well last night, got the team down into the end zone, 40-38, with I think 3 minutes plus left in the game, and going for a 2-point conversion that would have tied the football game. And it's Nate Wiggins in his second year out of Clemson playing for the Ravens. He's the defensive back going up against Coleman, the wide receiver for the Bills, who's become the go-to guy for Josh Allen. And it's basically a one-on-one rep. Think of every one-on-one rep you've done in practice, at a camp, wherever. And that's just what it boils down to. All of the Sunday night audience, all of the people in attendance, everyone's eyes are on that. And you just know pre-snap, that's where the ball is going. Okay. It's trips to the field, and it's Coleman and Wiggins in the boundary, one-on-one, right down there from the 5-yard line or wherever they put the ball at. I'm not sure. I should know that, but I don't. The ball's going there. And in that pressure moment, Nate Wiggins stood up, executed his technique, got chest to chest with Coleman, got the ball down, no 2-point conversion. Ultimately, the Bills would get the ball back, go down, kick a field goal. By now, everyone knows what happened there. But in that moment, no one knows that that's what's going to happen. That's how the game's going to end. So this is for the ball game. This is for the Balls game. And I was struck by how Wiggins handled that moment, because it can be really, really nerve-wracking at that time. And so I felt like I should have this discussion about how you handle those pressure moments, because, games are won and lost on that. Legacies are won and lost in situations like that. So it stands to reason that let's talk about what you need to do in those situations. The major thing, all right, when you talk about situations like that, a lot of people are going to they're going to want to come to you and talk to you about, what you should be doing, how you should play your press technique, or how you should play off, or what you should do when the ball's in the air. Before all of that, there's a mentality, because it matters what you think. It matters what you have running through your head long before that ball is snapped and the play is going. So the mindset you need to adopt really quickly, and I don't think I need to go through talking to you guys about identifying a key moment in the game. You should know what a key moment is in the game. You should know that. All right. I don't think Nate Wiggins was out there in that situation with the game being 40-38 with, under 5 minutes left, wondering, is this a key moment in the game? So I don't even want to address that with you. It's a key moment. In a key moment, you need to have this type of mentality. I want the spotlight. I want the ball to come here. I want an opportunity to get my hands on the football at this time, get an interception, and have everyone looking at me. I want the whole television audience looking at me. I want everyone at the game looking at me. I want the announcer talking about me. I want everyone to see me make this big play right here. And the reason I say that is a lot of guys get in that moment and they adopt the mindset of, I hope they don't come over here. I'm going to try my best to cover this guy as well as possible so the quarterback doesn't throw the ball over here. I just don't want to be in that moment. They can go to the other side of the field and let that happen, and I can just have a sigh of relief. There are a lot of guys that have that mentality. You cannot have that mentality, because I've got news for you. If you happen to be covering a favorite wide receiver, of that quarterback. It doesn't matter if you're covering him well. That ball's coming there anyway, and now you're going to need to make a play. And if your mindset is, I don't want the spotlight, I don't want to come in my way, there's a really good chance you might not play that ball well. There's a really good chance that that ball, even though you have great coverage, is going to go into the hands of that wide receiver, and he's going to get that first down, or he's going to get that game-clinching touchdown, and that's just going to be it. First thing you've got to do is adopt the mentality that I want this ball to come here. Look at me. Look at what I'm about to do. Watch me get this interception. Watch me get this ball down and break this pass up. And I want my sideline pumped. I want that sideline over there, the visitors looking at me. I want that guy to be pissed looking at me. I want the television on me. I want all that. You have to have that type of mentality. That's what you've got to bring to the table. So let's just start with that. The next thing you need to do is focus on your technique. This is why you train. This is why you have those Indy periods. This is why you don't lallygag your way through Indy period and just go through the motions, because there will be that moment in a game where you are going to need to execute this drill that you're doing in this individual period right now to the T, so that you can win, so that your team can win, and so that all those eyes looking at you are looking at you in amazement. All right. I talked about what Jalen Ramsey did in that key moment in the game against the Jets. Everyone's talking about him. And if you know Jalen Ramsey, that's a guy that wants the spotlight. Those are the guys that make those plays. Not the guy that says, oh, I hope they go to the other side of the field. That guy doesn't make plays. The guy that says, oh, yeah, throw the ball over here. Send it this way. Watch what's about to happen. Big hit, pass breakup, interception, that type of guy. So you do all that stuff in the Indy drill to the best of your ability every rep, every time, because there will be a moment like last night where it's 40-38 and you're lined up in front of a guy and you need to have the greatest technique possible. At that moment, you focus on the technique. You block out that there's 80,000 people at the game. You block all that out. When it's time to snap that ball, you block all that out. It's you and that guy, and we're in a phone booth. We're in silence, and it's my technique versus what it is you've done and what you've learned over time. So that's why Indy's important. But you got to block everything out, focus on your technique. You've got to trust your training. You have to trust your training, and that's why you train the right way. That's why you demand the most out of yourself in training, because there's going to come that moment. If your team's worth a damn, even if your team's not good, you're going to go up against someone that's really, really good, and you're going to have one of those moments where you could stand up and say, hey, I might be on a team that's 2-7, but against you guys, look at how I played. All right? That's why you trust that training and you do your utmost. And so training is not just individual period. Training is studying film. Training is taking your notes in the meeting. Training is being dialed in your walkthroughs. Training is going full speed at practice and doing everything to the best of your ability. All right. Trust all those things. And then, of course, yes, your technique for tackling, your technique for catching the football, your technique for playing off, your technique for playing press, all of the little elements that get put together in leading up to the season and throughout the season. You've got to trust all of that. How do you trust all of that? Put your utmost effort into it. Confidence throughout a game, and especially in those situations, comes from you just knowing what you have built. That's where the confidence comes from. I know I built a machine. I know I built a monster here. Here's how I did it. I took the notes. I watched the film. I did do the Indy period to the best of my ability. I do run around at practice. So trust your training, and that's why you train. You want to know why guys like Deion Sanders had so much flair and so much confidence at all moments, seemingly in games? It's because not only was he talking like that, he was backing it up with all of the training. I had the pleasure of watching him practice. I had the pleasure of watching him and Jerry Rice practice as they were preparing for the Super Bowl to go play the Chargers. It was an eye-opener for me. Those guys practiced hard. Jerry Rice would not sit down, caught balls over and over and over again. And Deion Sanders was running around, and they blew the horn to go to another period, and Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders are sprinting to the other field ahead of everybody. They're racing each other to the next field. Those guys practice hard. They talk a big game. They knew the spotlight was on them, and as such, they prepared because they know those moments are coming. Those moments are coming. So for you guys that want to lallygag through certain things, you want to lallygag through this, you don't watch the film, you pretend to watch the film, you don't take the notes in practice, you're halfway paying attention during the walkthrough, you're talking about some other thing, some chick, some video game, whatever the hell, and you skirt past all that, you're going to find yourself in that Nate Wiggins moment on a Sunday night. And what are you trusting? Are you trusting that you weren't paying attention in the meetings or that you didn't watch the film? What part are you going to be trusting? That's why you do all of these things, so that you can stand up in that moment and you can come through for your team, for the fans, for your parents that are watching, and everyone that is supporting you and representing you, and the coach, the poor coach that made the decision to put you out there. Despite the politics that might have existed, despite the fact that someone else said the other guy should be starting, he put you out there. He put you out there on that field, and he needs to also, he's in that moment with you. He's not out there in the field, but by God, he's on that field with you. He's not out there, but he's out there, if you know what I mean. So that's why you do all the things that you need to do. So the last thing I will say is, if your pressure situation is coming in a situation where the ball is going to be thrown, sometimes a pressure situation is just making a tackle. But let's say it's the ball going to be thrown. It's the situation like Nate Wiggins, you're one-on-one with a wide receiver. Here's the last thing I'm going to tell you, and this is a physical thing. And this should come naturally if you have all of those other elements in place. But just in case it isn't, find that football when it's thrown. Too many times I see guys get beat in a situation like that, where they are just so petrified or they're just so not ready. They don't catch enough footballs. They're not comfortable enough with that they just want to look at the receiver and try and play the ball in his hands. And let me tell you something. In that pressure situation like that, if that receiver is worth half of a damn, if that ball hits his hands, he's probably going to catch that ball. It would take a Herculean effort from you once that ball hits his hands to get it out, because he knows the meaning of that moment. So my message to you is, in those pressure situations where it's a ball that's going to be thrown, and that's typically what happens for us here as defensive backs, get your head around, find that football, and make a play on the ball. Too many times I just see guys trying to play the hands, swatting at the hands after the guy has caught it, or they get a pass interference penalty because they didn't think to turn around and go find the football. All right, take your chances, put the money on the line. Again, you want the spotlight. You want the ball in your hands. He threw the ball. The quarterback threw the ball. It's my ball. It's my football. This is my moment. I want all the eyes on me. And I won't get all the eyes on me if I'm looking at him. If I'm looking at him, he's going to get the moment. Not me. He's going to get the moment. You want the moment. And the way you're going to get that moment, head around, find the football, get one or two hands on it. That's the final piece to this whole thing. All right. So in summary, you have to have the proper mentality. That is, that you want the spotlight. Number two is, you have to focus on your technique in that moment. Focus on what it is you're supposed to be doing in that moment, how your feet are supposed to move, what your eyes are supposed to be doing, etc. Number three is, trust your training. And that means you should have been doing everything up to this point. And that's why you do all these things up to this point. You study, you take notes in the meeting, you are engaged in the walkthroughs, and you run around at practice full speed doing the things that you need to do. And then finally, number four, find the football. Your two eyes, find that football and try to get one or two hands on it, because that's how the plays are made. Not staring at the receiver when you're in position. You stare at him, you're just going to watch. You're going to have the best seat in the house of that guy making a great play for his team to win the game. Turn your head around, find the football, go make a play. All right, that's going to wrap things up for us here on this edition of the Indy Drills podcast. I want to thank you guys for joining me. As always, I do appreciate you guys coming here. Like this video, share this video if you found it of use to you. Make sure that you are a subscriber, whether you're listening to me on Apple Podcast or Anchor or Spotify, whatever you're listening to me on. You don't want to miss another great show like this one. On your way out, I've got great resources for you. Yes, you're in season, and that means you need something like this: 101 DB tips, over 100 of the best tips you're ever going to find. Full pages detailing, not just giving you the tip, but detailing why it's important, how you're going to go about doing it, and how you're going to win. I'm talking about pressure situations. This book is going to help you win all of those pressure situations. You can get it as a soft cover like this, or you can order it as an ebook. It comes to you immediately via email. Link to it down in the description below. Also, join the All Eyes DB Camp members area. Man, this place is absolutely lights out. Right, the feedback has been absolutely great. Coming up on a year of being in the new members area now, and just the amount of things that we're able to do in there, the discussions we're able to have, the stuff on strategy I'm able to post in there, the quizzes, stuff on technique in there. If you're in there and you're a regular attender to the All Eyes DB Camp members area, you're just a better DB. You're just going to be a better DB. That's really what it is. Everything that I use to teach the guys that are playing in the NFL right now, that are all pros, that are defensive players of the year, that are on their way to the Hall of Fame, everything that I use to teach guys that are All-Americans in college and top-of-the-line recruits for high school football is in that members area, and this book. Link to both of them in the description down below. You definitely want to get on at the very least one of these, but man, invest in you, get both, and you will be a better football player. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. And as always, All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.